Hello, I'm François Macari from Use and Share, and I'm with Aymeric Boffa from Bimedoc, and we are pleased to present you our collaborative study, which is running on a set of prescriptions selected by Rouen University Hospital and analyzed by Bimedoc's pharmaceutical decision support tool with Use and Share operating data normalization in between. Knowledge about drug actions, interactions, and metabolism keeps growing at a steady pace, and this is highly structured knowledge relying on mathematical models, which calls for symbolic AI, like rule-based reasoners such as Bimedocs. However, the accuracy of the outcome of such AI highly depends upon the quality of its input data. So I liked very much your data quality plus, plus, plus. Here also it is a focus. So our study has a twofold goals. First is to prove the high added value by Bimedoc's rule-based reasoner operating on state-of-the-art knowledge on drugs, actions, interactions, and metabolism. And second, establish that this high value can only be reached if the data which is provided as input to the reasoner has been properly normalized and structured. The method that we follow is simple. We pass the set of prescriptions twice into Bimedoc's tools. First, with the raw patient data as they were provided by the hospital, and second, after this data has gone through a structuration and normalization process based on Use and Share tools. And then we compare the set of recommendations which have been produced by the two runs. Here is the overview of the process. So the hospital provides the cohort of patients with drug prescriptions. The first run submits this cohort to Bimedoc's tool and which produces as outcome a set of recommendations for adaptation of posologies. And then the second run, we take the same data and take it through a data structuring and normalization process based on Use and Share tools and relying on international reference terminologies such as SNOMED-CT and LOINC. And then we pass it to the reasoner, which produces a second set of recommendations, and then we compare the two. And now I will hand it over to Aymeric, who will illustrate the process on an example.
Thank you, François. We'll illustrate this example on a clinical case. We'll take a patient, a 51-year-old male patient. He has some problems, leukemia, nausea, urinary incontinence. We also have some lab results which show an important kidney failure. And the current prescription, so some medication and the associated posology. All this we can decompose in two kinds of data. First, the unstructured one. It's like a doctor will just write some stuff on the patient file. Obviously, we could try to use some AI to structure this data, but the idea is not to ask for validation from the healthcare professional. So at this point, we'll just consider that it's unstructured data, like just raw text. We have the patient sex and birth date as structured data, obviously, and also the medication and the posology. This can pose some challenges, but we'll consider here that it's already structured. We have ATC codes for the medication and the posologies. And the first run, we have only one thing our symbolic AI can say. It's that we have an interaction between two medications, the metoclopramide and the mirabegron. This is the only structured data we have, so we can't really say a lot more. Our tool can give several kinds of alerts or information. Here we'll focus on the one given by DDI predictor, which is drug-drug interaction and also metabolical issues. Here it tells us that we have an interaction between the mirabegron and metoclopramide, and that the mirabegron will increase the effect of the metoclopramide by a factor of roughly 1.7. So that's the strength of this tool, is that it does not only tell you that there is interaction, it also gives you like a number. It tells you precisely the strength of the medication will be increased by 1.7. Although this is nice, in fact it's pretty useless because we don't know if the prescriptor already took into account this. We don't have the theoretical posology, so this is nice, but honestly we can do a lot with it. And worse than that, a system that gives useless recommendation will soon be considered as useless by the professional, because who wants to have like 100 false alerts every day? Now we'll try to codify all this data. So we want to get out of raw text information. We want to have already codified data we can use in our system. To do that, for the patient problems, we'll use SNOMED common terms, which will give us codes, international codes for each term. For the lab results, so the kidney failure will have information on the creatinine clearance with following codes. So all this allows us to have common data, common codes, which can be used by the hospital, but also by software and recommendation systems like ours. Obviously, we also have the already structured data from before. So in the second run, we'll note several big differences. The first one is that we have the kidney failure taken into account. So the DDI predictor will tell us that with this kind of kidney failure, the strength of metoclopramide will be increased by a factor of 4. This combined with the other one, and that's another strength of DDI predictor, it does not only tell us that we have a problem with the kidneys, which increases the strength of 4, and then another one with the medication with 1.5, it tells us that we have a synergic effect between these two issues. So in fact, the strength of metoclopramide will be increased by a factor of 10. Here we begin to have a lot of problems, because factor of 10, the posology was 30 milligrams per day. Now it's like for a person with no issues, you will have to take like 300. It's like you're just going to take a full pack of pills in one day. So that's the first information we have from the structured data. Second one is that we know that the patient has nausea. We identify it with the SNOMED common terms code. So now we have a theoretical posology. We know that the theoretical posology is 30 milligrams per day. So we can really say, okay, we have an increase of the effect by more than 10. We know the theoretical posology. Now we know what the supposed posology should be when we have all these issues, all these pathologies, and these lab results. So now, if the prescriptor already prescribed like something around 3 milligrams per day, we won't even show this alert, because we know the prescriptor already has taken it into account. But we can compare it with a really prescribed posology and say if there is an issue or not. To conclude, this is like symbolic AI reasoners, so there's no deep learning behind it, but it can give a lot of information to the professionals, because it's based on scientific information, pharmaceutical research information. So with structured information, you can really have a lot of values for either the prescriptors or for pharmaceutical control after prescription. The big issue is that at the moment, in any country, we have the impression that we have 100 medical languages. You go in one hospital, they have one kind of vocabulary, they will format the data one kind. You go in another one, and it will be completely another thing, even in the same country. So that's where data structuration comes into play, because we can structure the way we share information with stuff like HL7 FIRE, and how we'll use a common vocabulary like SNOMED common terms or law codes. So to conclude, we all know we have a lot of data in healthcare. We also have a lot of scientific knowledge which is growing every year. So to use completely all this data and to share the medical knowledge, we absolutely need one common medical language, and not like the hundreds we have at the moment with one different in each hospital. Thank you.